It was kind of funny, watch the base like up and down, the base from like here.
Oh, maybe that's one.
You went to 501 there, you went. Yeah, during the right now. And then I think there's. Keeper played on the. He's the one I followed. No, I would say that. That's why Ryan. Bring it down. Oh, okay. You're bored.
In the district, that was the challenge. All right, so we are back in the meeting, ready to resume. And at this time, we are going to move forward with the Pledge of Allegiance.
We have an amazing senior of the month, Lillian, that's here. Can you step forward so they can see you on camera? Oh, there you go. Can you lead us in the pledge?
Right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Okay. I think, Ms. Whiteman, I think we're going to turn it over to you at this point. It's what? We do need to adopt the agenda first. Okay, looking for a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move the board adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you. And Mrs. Boley seconds. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll vote on it. All right, thank you. Okay, so now we have adopted the agenda. We'll turn it over to Ms. Whiteman to walk us through the public hearing process.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. On your agenda this evening are two public hearings that are required by Kansas law. I will open the public hearing on the first one, which is the public hearing required to exceed the revenue neutral rate. The Kansas law 79-2988 requires specific procedures to be completed when a district exceeds the revenue neutral rate. This is a result of legislation passed by the Kansas legislature in 2020. The revenue neutral rate, as you will recall, Mr. Menke explained, I think it was last board meeting and several board meetings in dealing with the budget. It's basically the mill levy rate that generates the same amount of property tax revenue as the previous year. And our district will be exceeding that revenue neutral rate. And as a result of the Kansas legislature, every school district in the state or municipality that exceeds that revenue neutral rate then must give notice and hold a public hearing. You approved the notice to be published last board meeting and set this evening as the public hearing. At this time, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to the board, make comments, questions, or objections about exceeding the revenue neutral rate? Seeing no one at this time, I will officially close this public hearing. There is no action required of the board at this moment on the agenda, but later in the agenda, you will find under item 22.1, there will be a resolution that the board will need to take action on to officially pass and the revenue, exceeding the revenue neutral rate. With your permission, Mr. President, I will go on to conduct the second public hearing, which is again required by Kansas law. And this is the public hearing on the school budget. Officially open this public hearing on the school budget. Again, KSA 79-2929 requires school boards to hold a public hearing. And this is a public hearing that will be held every year that the school district adopts its budget. The notice of the hearing was approved by the board and published in the Topeka Metro on August 26th, 2024. Now is the time set aside by the board for the board to hear and answer any questions or objections by taxpayers concerning the use of all the funds and the taxes to be levied. And the board became aware of the entire budget, all the taxes and funds at last meeting as they were reviewed by Mr. Menke and his staff. Is there anyone present at this time who would like to ask questions, comments, or make any objections about the proposed use of the funds and the taxes to be levied for the USD 501 budget? Seeing, oh,
I'm new to the game.
yes, stand up and come forward, please.
Okay. Yeah, this is my first meeting.
Okay,
So what is the budget for the school year?
okay, the budget is all the money and programs and funds expended throughout the year for
So how
provision
mu-
of
how
public
much-
education.
What kind of money are we talking?
That's a Mr. Menke question.
Code 99 that was published, I got a copy if you'd like to look at it.
Yeah, I don't get the Topeka Metro, so.
And
Mr. Menke can provide you with that.
Okay.
In fact, he will be able to answer any questions that you may have about the budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments about the budget? Seeing none, at this time, I close the public hearing on the adoption of the USD 501 budget. There is no action that is required by the board at this point in the agenda. But later on in tonight's agenda, under 22.3, the board will approve the adoption of the 24-25 school year budget. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board.
Thank you, Ms. Whiteman. We are now ready for school highlights.
Video. At this time, this is my favorite part of the board meeting. While the other part is interesting and fun, this is the best part because we get to celebrate students, and we have an amazing student here today. So join me in watching the video. And we're going to go back for just a moment. So we have a Topeka High Trojan, and when the video concludes, Mr. Dick will come up and we'll get a chance to meet her and have her answer some questions.
Has easily found where she fits.
All right.
Hi, my name is Lillian Crohe, and I'm a senior at Topeka High School. I'm a part of choir, I do theater. This is my second year doing yearbook. I do the morning report. I'm gonna try out for the bowling team this winter. I haven't been able to yet.
She's a kid that's involved in a lot of things at Topeka High School. Definitely in her time here has easily found where she fits and grown and developed and done all of the things that she wants to do.
She has really helped our troop kind of come back from the pandemic and being able to get us in the eyes of the community. She's been able to figure out when is it time to lead and when is it time to sit back and follow, and seeing that growth in terms of just a human being in the community. It's been really awesome.
It doesn't matter if it's a camera or an audience of hundreds. She really steps up now. I can always count on her to volunteer when something needs to be done. She never recoils from a challenge. She may have difficulties from time to time, but that's one of those things that makes us all unique is how we deal with them. And she always comes through.
My plans are actually to go into acting in college. There's a few colleges that I have my eye on right now, but I haven't tried out for anything specific. As long as I'm able to support myself and I'm able to continue having fun in what I'm doing, that's like really my ultimate goal.
All that you have done in high school and the way that you've carried yourself, you definitely need to just continue to do those things as you move on away from here. That will serve you well. You will have a much better experience and enjoy what you're doing a lot more, just as you've done while you've been at Topeka High.
Just be herself, because she is a delightful person. She's genuinely sweet. She's pretty humble for someone with so much talent, which is a rarity nowadays.
You've made us so proud and have really impacted how we've been able to structure students here in our troop, and we're just really excited to see that leadership and for you to leave that legacy. I promise high school is a lot more fun if you allow yourself to have fun. There's such a diverse group of people here at this school, and it's so cool that I get to be a part of this amazing student body.
Mr. Dick, can you come forward?
Good evening. I get the pleasure to introduce Lily tonight and just share really some interesting fun facts about Lily at Topeka High. She was the first freshman lead in any production at Topeka High in over 30 years when she started as a freshman. She's kind of a social media person and actually has an Instagram post that had 2.1 million views related to the production last year. She has grown the attendance in theater productions by about 10 times. They went from having about 30 people a night at a production to over 300 here in this last year. All really thanks to Lily and a lot of she does to promote and do the things that happen within the theater. She's also involved in theater in the community. And while she doesn't have a definite plan yet for the future as to where she's going, it will be in theater and possibly the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. And Topeka High has a few gifts for you, Lily. We have a nice picture of Topeka High, the back signed by lots of your favorite folks at Topeka High. It's a little tricky. So that is for you. A little bag with some more stuff. Normally, we would get her a shirt for the college or wherever it is she's going to go, but we don't know that yet. So she's getting some extra Topeka High stuff. Come on up.
Do I open it on camera?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm scared to ruin it. Oh, that's pretty fun. Huh? Oh, I'm not. No, I love crafting.
What did you get?
Oh, I don't know how much, but it's a Michael's gift card.
Okay, awesome.
And ooh, a Topeka High lanyard. That's pretty fun. Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. Ooh. Huh?
Susan wrapped it up.
There's a Topeka High pen and like a magnetic. Magnetic clip. Is there anything else in here? Am I missing something? There is. And a magnet. That's so cool. Oh,
It's a
thank
lot
you.
of Trojan gear.
Yeah.
Well, Ms. Croakey, we are so proud to recognize you as our September Senior of the Month. The board will have questions for you, so we'll turn it over to the board.
I'm sure that we will. Congratulations, Lily.
Thank you.
I saw you in Mean Girls. Thought you did a fantastic job. I think I'm guessing that my colleagues on the board will have questions. I've got one,
Okay.
which is what is your secret for growing the size of the audience typically at a production from 30 to 300, as your principal was mentioning?
So at the start of last year, our first production had about 30 people per audience member. So I decided to reach out to the media coordinator at Topeka Civic Theater, and I asked for some advice, like, what do they normally do to promote their shows? What are some pieces of advice for somebody who's new to this? Because that was my first time doing something like that. And she basically told me that external media is like really what they hone in on. So I decided to reach out to we did one Red Couch interview, and then we did a few Alpha Radio interviews, and was it KSNT? KSNT, a few KSNT interviews as well.
All right, fantastic. It worked.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, question, Dr. Bonebreak.
The talent in Topeka tends to leave and not come back. Maybe you could sort of infuse Topeka Civic Theater with your talents. But best of luck, whichever coast, but it'd be wonderful if you could come back and revitalize Topeka.
All right, Dr. Beeson.
This is one of my favorite things we've done as a board since I've joined, so welcome. I want to point out that fashion cycles, and I wore your exact outfit in high school, and I love it. Also, the comment that really stuck with me, one about you, is sort of your role in bringing back theater after the pandemic. And I think that so much of us lost spirit and heart during that. And I think for you to have been instrumental in that at such a young age is incredible. You mentioned having fun several times. And I read that you're an excellent student academically also. So I'm curious how you learned. I was so focused on academics in high school. I wish I had had more fun. How'd you figure out that balance is so important?
Well, in middle school, I wasn't really as involved in extracurriculars as I am now, and it was just kind of boring. Like I didn't find myself like excited to go to school. And once I really started like getting into theater, I was really excited to just be at school. And I think that honestly helped my academics. I think I don't know, I'm just somebody who, if I can find fun in something, I'm gonna be a lot more successful in it.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Mrs. Bowling.
You have brought me so much joy. I can remember that freshman year and that blew me away. This student can't be a freshman. You were so good. And I try to make it to most of the theater productions and you have just brought me so much joy. And I was just wondering who raised you to bring me so much joy? So do you have some parents and grandparents maybe here that you want to introduce? And I'm just so glad to see you on a smaller stage here. And thank you for that joy.
Thank you. Okay, so I brought my mom. This is Mrs. Crowe. I brought my dad. That's Mr. Crowe. I bought my mom's mom, Mrs. Bronco, and I brought my mom's dad, Mr. Bronco.
And we're all 501 people.
Mhm.
Right.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Oh, and my brother's in the back there too.
So parents, what is your secret? What advice would you give to other parents to create such a joyful child?
I think one of the biggest things that you can do as a parent is just treat your kids like a person and realize that everybody has their own talents and their own interests, and it's kind of just observing them and seeing what it is in them that kind of sparks the joy. And then encouraging it and helping out as much as possible. We've spent a lot of hours listening to singing in the house. So that's really our contribution to all of us.
Thank you so much for all of you being 501 products. Thank you. We appreciate all your support. And I hope you believe that we have supported her and all of her dreams at Topeka High. Congratulations, Senior of the Month.
Thank you.
Dr. Schumacher.
Lillian, thank you for coming tonight. I would tag on to Mrs. Boley. I do think knowing your mother, some of that energy is genetic, I believe, and the inability to just do one thing. I think what's special and kind of like Dr. Beeson was saying, like coming out of the pandemic, some of the things that you've done, I think what's great is you're building a legacy now and having a child that is involved in theater and knowing some of the other sophomores, juniors, that kind of stuff, following now in your footsteps is really pretty awesome. I know Mrs. Schmidt a lot of times will ask, what would you tell your freshman self, like being done now, like what are things that went well or what are things that you would do different? Like what advice would you have for freshmen coming in?
Well, I think my advice for myself as a freshman compared to what I would tell freshmen now would be different. Because when I was a freshman, I was really concerned with what people thought of me. And I'm not saying that freshmen now don't think like that. But it's different to hear somebody that you're close to like tell you to like chill out a bit. I think if I were to talk to current freshmen, I would tell them that whatever kind of stress or sadness or anger that they're feeling regarding their situation is something that a lot of other people feel, and they're not alone in that. And reaching out and getting involved and meeting new people honestly helps so much because you can relate to people and you find people to share your joy, you find people to share your sadness, and it's just really beautiful.
I think a lot of times, and I've talked about this before, we see theater as a safe space. And so finding those, like you said, in getting involved, whether it's theater, whether it's band, whether it's sports, you find your people. And that makes things so much more enjoyable. So I'm glad that you found that and that we all get to reap the rewards of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board members? Okay. Thank you so much for being here and congratulations on being Senior of the Month. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Right, and we're going to ask Lily and her family to hang around for about 5 minutes because after our next award and a recognition, then we'll take a small break for photos. Dr. Gray, can you come up? He spends a lot of time touring buildings and really making sure we are ready for our largest back-to-school fair that started off in the parking lot of a church at one time. And so, Dr. Gray, and I believe, do we have a video as well of this?
Today, we have come together to organize a back-to-school fair. We are giving out book bags K through 8th grade for 500 people. So we just want to help them in any way that we can.
It felt great. Some of them I've seen through the community and just the new faces that have come through. I think the parents are relieved and the parents are excited. Matter of fact, when I got here this morning, about an hour before the event, there was already a line outside the building waiting to get in to get these supplies.
Well, just seeing their smiles today made it all worth it. Their excitement, a lot of them were talking about, I'm going to this school, I'm gonna be in this grade. They were excited, they were happy, and they were positive, and so it just showed that the community is supporting our schools and we'll support them as well.
We thank all of our sponsors and all of our volunteers that help give out all the school supplies to help these students be learners every single day. We're so grateful.
Oh my goodness, when they get their school bag, they are so happy, and to see their faces smile, it just makes you feel good. There's 10 churches and there's several other organizations. Advisors Excel, they purchased the book bags for us. Chick-fil-A gave us some free coupons. Frito-Lay gave us some bags of chips. So we have a lot of people that volunteer their time, and so we're just here ready to rock and roll.
And I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Gray, to introduce our United for Schools for a Successful Year team member. Same person comes every year, but you got some members of the church, or is it you represent the whole church? Me. All right. All right, so Dr. Gray, I'll turn it over to you. But Pastor White is the church pastor for New Mount Zion, and Dr. Gray, share who's with us today.
Again, thank you so much, Dr. Anderson, and good evening, school board members. Again, today we're so excited to have with us Miss Lisa Davis Douglas. If you would come forth, please. She has been very instrumental in a lot of the things that happen in this district as it relates to school supplies, and we're very grateful for your contribution, as well as the many organizations that feed into what you do. So again, Miss Lisa Davis Douglas.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm gonna turn it over to the board to ask you any questions and any comment that you'd like to make, and then I'll present you with the certificate.
All right. Thank you for being here. We appreciate what you've done for our students and understanding that you're just a representative for the entire coalition. But we want to extend to you our gratitude for the entire coalition's work in putting together, just taking the time and the effort that was necessary to show love to our students. It is very much appreciated by them and by all of us. So thank you.
Welcome.
I'll turn it over to any board members that have questions. Mr. Munoz.
Ms. Davis, it's so great to see you. Thank you for all the work that you do. You know, one of the things I'm interested in is as a person of faith, and when we serve and when we help others, I think we ourselves are impacted through that service. And so I'm interested to hear from you some learnings you've had over this last year, even past years. What are you learning about those who you're serving, and how have you been impacted?
Well, what happened was I was a Section 8 inspector for many years. And when I'm going in and out of people's homes, I could hear things that people needed and wanted, and you know, what was most helpful to them. And so that started off. So I went to Pastor White and I told him, hey, let's do this. We started out at our church just doing haircuts. And we had so many people come and do haircuts, we just ran out of time. And because we had 22 barbers. And then after that, somebody else heard what we were doing. So they donated, and it just started growing to where we couldn't do it anymore at the church. But people contact us and say, hey, what do you need? What we want to help. And it's just wonderful. You don't have to beg and worry, I'm not going to have enough stuff. We had way more things left over when we stopped, and we gave 512 people book bags and supplies.
Well, thank you very much for all of your work. I know that the students walked away with a book bag full of materials. They were well prepared for start a new year and be as successful as possible. So thank you very much.
Mrs. Boley.
So I remember when you were doing it at church. And one thing I remember there was there were more people than supplies. You were just getting started and people were so surprised at the need and you stepped up to that need in such a big way. I remember somebody in a black mascot, like cat uniform, I think, and it was like 100 degrees. I kept thinking
Black
that
Panther.
it was a Black Panther. I kept thinking that Black Panther's gonna go down. He's gonna go down. We're hoping he has 9 lives. It was hot. But the need was so great. And every year you stepped up more and more and more. And as you saw in the video, I was dancing, giving out supplies because the kids were so joyful. They were so excited to get all of that new stuff. And that came from you and all your volunteers and your donators. And we really want to thank you because every single one, I was a classroom teacher and I used to buy supplies to make sure those students that came in had the supplies on the first day, just like all the other students. And it was costly. But because of your efforts and everybody in your church, that has helped our teachers and students come in with pride. They're not getting their supplies from the teacher when they walk in. And it's just a beautiful thing. And I just thank you and all of your organizations, your church, for everything you've done. You have created so many blessings in Topeka. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Ms. Schmidt.
I just want to build on what Ms. Boley said, and because I worked in the schools as a communities and schools site coordinator, and so we'd have people come to us with those needs. And even more so, is it a blessing for the kids, but the parents? Because I know as parents, we do everything that we can to make sure our kids have everything they need. And when some of our families are focused on putting food on the table and keeping the lights on and a roof over their head, sometimes that comes last, but it doesn't mean that they don't want that for their children too. And so just like you said, it brings joy to your heart that you don't have to go out and beg people for donations. I'm sure it brings joy to so many parents' hearts that they don't have to go and beg to get these materials at other places, that this is an opportunity that you help provide. So to you and all the participating churches and organizations that donate, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And I'm sure those parents are just overly grateful.
They are. And let me just say, my mom was a teacher also in 501 and a principal, and then she was a general director. And she just cannot believe how much people give, and she's just blown away.
And who's
So,
your mom?
Barbara Davis.
Ms. Davis, Topeka Public Schools recognizes you for the United for a Successful School Year for your outstanding support and contribution. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Sure.
Bring your family, you can, and you want to bring your certificate and flag? Grab that. I will carry this. Breakfast, you can carry this. Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay. All right.
No, I got it.
It's a family event. It's a family event. There you go. Good, perfect.
All right. Maybe the squeeze just a little bit more. Is it possible? We can do that. All right. That should work. Yep. All right. All right.
Yes, she can play with it.
All right.
You're gonna see it now.
Thank you.
I got some ready.
So the next item on our agenda is public communications, and we have no one signed up to speak tonight. Okay. So then the next item is a disposition of business by consent, and I'll be looking for a motion to move that forward.
I move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Schumacher. Do we have a second for that motion? Dr. Beeson seconds. Any further discussion? Ms. Schmidt?
On agenda item 14 under consent, contracts and administration. It's a consulting agreement with a Robert Winkler, and I just wanted to understand that a little bit.
Absolutely. Dr. Kipp is on his way up to explain, as that is one of his staff members.
Yes. Bob Winkler. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Bob Winkler has been helping us in the assessment demographics department for about, I want to say 8-10 years. We reduced his time. He was full-time, and we cut that in half as we were trying to save money with budget. He primarily focuses on the whole SRSS partnership with KU and Kathleen Lane to do the social emotional measures. So he focuses on that, and he has years of experience with working with other districts, with Shawnee Mission, Olathe, Wichita. So he has kind of some intellectual assets that we really bring to TPS.
Okay, and does he come on the piece about it that kind of intrigued me was the automobile piece. Is it something that he can't do online that
There is some, probably the majority of work can be done online remotely. There is some stuff that has to be done here with security with our servers that he can't access remotely. So
from a consulting agreement perspective, historically consulting agreements I've done, I have not seen that piece of it. A lot of times when you're doing a contract, if travel's part of it, that's just
sure.
So, all right.
Yep. Does that answer your questions or anything?
Okay, Mrs. Boley.
Yep. Okay.
So I was going to ask about the positive behavior support at Jardine. As I was going through that contract, I didn't see a cost there. Did I miss it? How are we working that?
With the PBIS, I don't know if that's really in my wheelhouse necessarily, but
And that would be Miss Wallace's and or Miss Sharp, and I believe Mrs. Sharp, are you prepared or Dr. Harrington to address that? Miss Wallace was unable to be here this evening, unexpectedly, so, but Dr. Harrington may be able to address that as well. So we'll give her just a moment.
I was just wondering, is it like a partnership? I was wondering why the cost wasn't there since we're approving it. Seems like there'd be a cost.
Right, and with
question.
And with Miss Wallace not being here, I know that's one she may have submitted, so I would encourage that at this point, since she isn't here and it's one of her agenda items, if we could, for that consent item, pull that one, if we could, and bring that back in 2 weeks.
Right here.
Dr. Anderson, I think I reviewed that contract, and if it's the one I'm thinking about, it is.
Mrs. Whiteman, would you, yes, thank you. The microphone, thank you.
I review most of the contracts that come before you, and I ask that same question. Usually when we have agreements for services, there is a dollar amount. I believe if this is item number 16, I think it's the contract where the parent has requested and hired and pays the individual for the services that are provided to the student in the classroom. And the services support the IEP. But I wrote there, I had them add into the contract a couple of paragraphs that number one, they're independent contractors and that the parent is paying for the services that are provided. And this is a parent desire. So the district's trying to accommodate extra assistance that the parent wants to be provided to their child.
And Dr. Harrington is the person that's working with that parent. So she's just gonna come forward and add to that. Thank you so much. That's impressive that you memorized all of these contracts so very well, Ms. Whiteman.
That is impressive.
You can speak with that level of detail. Dr. Harrington, can you briefly and concisely share a little bit about 16.1?
So we've had a contract with them multiple years, and it's to make sure that there's that home and school communication and collaboration so that we're using the same strategies and interventions that are being used at home in order to be able to generalize those skills between both settings. And so the agency had just asked if they could come in and do observations in the classroom to help the parent. And then they also share the information back with the IEP teams to help craft the behavior intervention plans and goals, et cetera.
So there's not a cost to us for that service, Ms. Boley, to your question.
That's why I couldn't find one. That seemed odd to me that we had a contract with no cost. So thank you so much for all that.
Thank you.
Explanation from both of you. Thank you.
It was a good question. Anyone else? Dr. Bonebreak.
Shot clocks were obtained for 2 high schools, but not for Topeka High. Is it going to be a little different to play with the shot clock at one place and without one at another?
So the High School Activities Association is piloting the use of shot clocks at 5A and 6A. Well, actually, I think any school in the state that would want to use it could use one this year at their site. The Centennial League, which Topeka High is part of, as a league has chosen not to participate in using shot clocks this year during the pilot program. There's no certainty that it will continue beyond this year. There's also some data collection that requires us to have another person track some data about the shot clock use in addition to a person to run the shot clock. And our league members at the Centennial League with Topeka High have chosen not to do that at this time until we're forced to have to consider it when it becomes rule. The leagues that Highland Park and Topeka West are part of have all decided to implement shot clocks. Just for information there, Highland Park shot clocks were too old to add, or not shot clocks, sorry, scoreboards were too old to add a shot clock to, so it forced us to have to replace scoreboards to add a shot clock there. Topeka West just received new scoreboards last year, and so they just needed to add the shot clock. That's the difference in the cost between the two. We may come back to you in a year or two for Topeka High, should that pass and we'd be mandated to use a shot clock. It will not be used in postseason play either this year in any Acacia activities, but during the season, it is being piloted across the state.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Dick. You are ready to give a very informative. Okay,
Hang around. Now, anytime you send us the question in advance, if you know it, we can make sure the person is here. I'm so glad that Mr. Dick was here to answer that question. That was pretty thorough.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Oh, you have another question, Dr. Bowbrick?
I was also wondering that McKinney-Vento homeless grant, what does that provide? $60,000.
Yeah, it doesn't help us to the extent that we would love for it to help us. So we hire a homeless coordinator. We also help every district in this county because we are the a launch pad for Impact Avenues, which is a place that accepts people that are homeless and they give them homes. But they needed a person to be that homeless coordinator to do that. So we already hired the homeless coordinator. Clearly her salary is above 60,000. But the size of the grant that that we are awarded is $60,000. So the district then funds the rest of that. The rest of the salary for Miss Regina Franklin, who's our homeless coordinator, and any professional development, any conferences that she goes on, we do fund that. So every year, though, we do request for full funding for our homeless coordinator and the needs. And every year we get about $60,000.
I think we know somebody who could coordinate some churches.
Well,
Anyway.
Here's what I will say. We are thankful and grateful for the $60,000 that we do get. That is a contribution towards the funds for Miss Regina Franklin's salary. And we are thrilled to have her also play a role for the entire county. So anyone that makes a referral for someone in homelessness, that's homeless, they make it to her and then she's able to send them to Impact Avenues. So it is a tremendous asset.
Okay. And last, there's a premium processing fee for our foreign exchange teachers. What do we do? Homogenize them for $3,000?
Well, Mrs. Sharp, we're full of questions this evening, of some surprise questions. This is making sure to look at us as if to see how well prepared we are with the right people in the room. And so Ms. Sharp is in the room to talk about HR. And what is that premium processing fee?
Yes, and Dr. Berry is here tonight to share even more about our international hiring practices, but that is to allow us to hire international teachers on a tighter timeline. And so that is a premium processing fee, is to allow us to bring them here sooner.
And so those are for international teachers who are traveling, and Dr. Berry in his report will talk about that. I see a little perhaps desire to hear more about that processing fee. And so he'll be sharing a little more in terms of the time frame that you can wait to come to Topeka Public Schools and how much that is shortened because you pay this additional fee. So he'll be speaking about that momentarily.
Anyone else? Mrs. Boley?
Dr. Anderson, you said if we would send the questions ahead of time, you'd have the people here. Where are we sending those questions? Our clerk?
Well, often many of our members in the past and many of our members here today, Mr. Munoz, a perfect example, last week, generally board members will send and say, I'm going to be asking this question. Can you make sure to have the data or the information? We always, we love the questions, and anything that comes up in this space, we'll be ready to ask that too. But sometimes we might not have the person here for various reasons. Maybe they don't normally come to a board meeting. Maybe it's a principal that might not be able to speak to something. And we want to give you as much information as possible. But when we can't give it, we're going to say, we'll get back to you. But in this case, Ms. Kramer could run down the hall and get Dr. Harrington and get her in the room. And we don't want to delay in giving you the information. But again, sometimes you're sitting at this seat and you're looking at something saying, huh, why is this? Or this came up and it just came up tonight. So we will do our best to give you the information we can. And when we know in advance, we'll be even more prepared to share as much background as possible in that regard as well.
Excellent. So what we'll want to do, board members, is just make sure that if we're reading through and we have questions about items that are going to come up on the agenda, particularly things having to do with business by consent, we can send those questions on to Dr. Anderson so that she can line up the folks to be able to answer those questions in the meeting.
And that
That's
happens,
a great idea.
and that happens throughout. You know, many of you all have done that, and members in the past. It helps us, but it also, again, we're excited to answer whatever comes up in this meeting as well.
Great. All right.
Any other questions?
Not seeing any. Okay.
Vote is still open.
The vote is open.
Oh, we're still at
Yeah, we're
consent.
still, yeah, there's still a motion on the table.
All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you all. Next item on the agenda, superintendent's report.
I think Dr. Barry is coming to the microphone, and we're going to start off with the international teachers. Flip that around just a little bit since that just came on up. The first question was about the premium processing fee. So Dr. Barry is going to start off sharing about that. The PowerPoint slide is coming up as he ends that question. He'll jump right on into all the things related to international teachers. In some months to come, we'll likely invite many of our international teachers to join us. And you get a chance to hear their experience, where they come from, why they come, and some other items. So premium processing fee, Dr. Barry.
Well, I don't know much more to add. Ms. Sharp is exactly right. Sometimes with the visa processes that we have to go through, it can take anywhere from 3 months to 6 months to get a teacher here. If we pay that extra, the premium processing, then we can speed up that process to get them here earlier, allowing them to be in front of the classroom with the other students. So that's exactly right.
How much is it earlier? That was the part we were
That-
adding, was the time frame. So it can take up to 6 months
It can
or
take-
longer.
3 to
Without
6
it.
months, yeah. Without the processing fee, it could take up to 8, but we don't really do that. But the 3 to 6 months, that's about what it takes. It takes a very long time.
Yeah,
for
we've
sure.
had, and Dr. Harrington will share, we've had teachers and it took them a year to come. We hired them this year. They get here by next year. So the fee is to ensure, especially for teachers we need this year, that they're here this year to the extent that we can make that happen. Just so you know the amount of time we're talking about. With that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Barry to walk through his slide.
Yeah, and just to address that last part, overseas and international schools, to get around that visa process, the teachers have to let the administration know by November the 1st if they're coming for the following year. That allows the schools to start that process very early. However, obviously, we can't do that here in Topeka. So if you look at the international teachers, whenever we talk about that in the district, it seems like people automatically think about the Philippines, and for good reason. This year, we hired 43 of them. 19 are here and 24 are still coming due to the visa processes that we were just talking about. But we also have, just this year, we've hired teachers from Spain, Mexico, China, India, and Jamaica. So we are becoming even more diverse than we were, which is something that's very positive. In the next line, you can see where these teachers are going. We're spreading them out to different schools throughout the district, allowing the students to get a feel of other cultures, even if they can't leave Topeka to go there, at least they get some exposure to these cultures. And then we still, as I say, we still have 24 Filipinos remaining to come. We have 2 coming in on Saturday, and then they're trickling in depending on where their visas are secured.
And that's just for this year. This doesn't take into account all of the international teachers
No.
we have from past years. So it's really been extraordinary. And you've heard Dr. Mejia speak about our international presence, as well as a dual language presence. And we're going to continue to bring this back because one of the pieces that we know that Dr. Kipp has shared, people are drawn to Topeka Public Schools because of diversity. That's one of the pieces. So as we continue to look at how we become more diverse, from an international perspective, Dr. Berry has listed the people this year, but he's also offered contracts to teachers for next year. So we have 3 teachers from Ecuador that are at Topeka West and Topeka High that are student teaching here at Topeka Public Schools because they wanted to be in Topeka. Pretty remarkable. They have their intent to hire. They'll be on board next year. So as we continue to draw in that space, it's been remarkable. I'll turn it back over to Dr. Berry regarding the feedback, and then turn it over to the board if there are any questions. If Dr. Mejia, which I believe she is here, wants to add, while we're giving this space for Dr. Berry in the HR space, I know that Dr. Mejia, who helped those teachers from Ecuador move into their homes, I know she may want to add when he's done sharing the feedback, information about the international staff and the support systems. Dr. Berry, I'll turn it back over to you on the feedback piece. If you'd like to mention anything,
Yeah.
then we'll go to the website.
Yeah, and just to follow up, we're always recruiting, so we do have the 3 Ecuadorians that we talked about. And just today, I hired a teacher teaching in North Carolina, but he's from Honduras. He's going to be a dual language math teacher next year. Tried to get him here this year, but he wouldn't come. He's got to finish his contract. So if you talk to the international teachers, and it's not just the Filipino teachers, but it's all of those teachers, this is kind of what they're saying about the district. And I think that first one, the district allows family members to come to Topeka. Oftentimes in international education, schools will only bring the teacher over. The families aren't able to come with them. And we were having a meeting one time over at one of the houses, actually Dr. Anderson's house, and the teacher just started crying she was so happy that she was able to spend time with her 3 children and family here in the States, as opposed to leaving them back in the Philippines. I'm not going to read those 2. You can read them. The feedback from the principals, though, if you ask the principals, they will tell you that they're very happy with the qualifications of the teachers that we're bringing over. They're very positive for the building. If you've spoken to the teachers from the Philippines, especially, they're very happy to be here. They have a very strong group there together quite often. And although they're very qualified, they're more than happy to share their knowledge with the others, but they're also happy to make changes in their own craft to become better teachers. And then as a district, what have we learned? We've learned that the onboarding process for bringing teachers on is very difficult, time consuming. Last year, we had 9 teachers we brought over. The year before, there was 1. This year, over 50. So we have learned a great deal about what we need to do as a district to make sure that the teachers, they come, they feel comfortable, and they're acclimated, because the better they feel in their home with their families, that pays off in the classroom with the students.
So to that end, on our website, and as Dr. Mejia comes forward and Dr. Berry stays somewhere up front here, some of the teachers, they talked about, the sense of belonging. Where's the grocery store? Where's the laundromat? How am I going to get furniture? And the sooner we can put those things in place, the sooner they can start. We talked at one point about how can we begin to look at how we help people get housing. So since the last conversation and the past articles, and shortly before those articles as well, we've had several partnerships developed with some of the apartment and housing management services, who are allowing for an easier pathway for an individual to be able to secure and move in or get furniture in their home before they get here, so that those materials can be collected. So many people are coming. One day they spend in HR and they tour their school, and then the next day they're teaching As opposed to, I gotta find a house first and I have to find all these other pieces. That's been incredible. That may not be the only way to do that, but it's diversified enough that there are apartments, there are homes, and then there are other creative host houses being offered. On the website that's pulled up, we have an international teacher link, and I'm trying to think of where that link actually is on the internet. We might have to put it in the, because we literally just made it. And in fact, we changed it from international link and we put it as a new teacher link. So I think we'll have to, if you're following online and then you're in the search bar and you put in new teacher resources, and/or I believe you go to human resources, you will find a link that was just created 2 days ago because teachers were talking about where do I get things? And so some of those things, Dr. Berry suggested creating a website that has those links as new teacher resources made available. As we go to that link, and my apologies, because now I put you off without telling you this in advance. I know. I'm going to send you the link to help you. Oh, there you go, resource. And I don't know that that's it, but as Dr. Mejia speaks and you stay right where you are, I'll send you the link. Dr. Mejia, I'll turn over to you to talk about the wraparound services.
Thank you. Good evening. So I have been fortunate to be part of this wraparound service for international teachers. And some of the things I help do is, facilitate that they have technology that they need as soon as they arrive, as well as I have kind of become the person that donations that staff members or friends, family, et cetera, of staff members have to help furnish these homes. Those items come to me. I coordinate that, and with the help of team members such as Ms. Fleck-Talley, of course, Dr. Anderson has been beyond instrumental in that piece. But we have a pretty good system that we have developed pretty quickly, given the volume of teachers and the value of the teachers, as well as have discovered that teachers who are here, that are new, that are from the United States, also have some needs, which is why we changed it from international teacher support to just teacher support. So people have come and wrapped around these teachers and staff members in a phenomenal way. The next move is tomorrow morning. We have approximately 5 or 6 stops to do. And some of these stops work where we go pick up items, deliver to the home that needs it to be ready for the teacher who's soon coming. And what's not needed, it's taken for storage in a TPS facility where other members of the staff can come over and look at what is needed, or we just keep it there for future teachers as we prepare to receive so many more. It's been fantastic. Dr. Kip and I actually have the privilege of being the community mentors for one of our VITs. I believe you have met her, Ms. Barbara, and she's at Whitson, phenomenal. And this year, the VITs are all couples. There are 5 of them. And so we are waiting for a husband to get the work permit. And I mean, I have it on my speed dial because he's ready to work and join our team in, service center or whatever. So we built that networking and strengthening our school district, not just from the teaching perspective, but everything that revolves around teaching and the people who are in front of children, so that those teachers and we as a district can function to the excellent level that we're expected to.
And Dr. Kip shared a beautiful story that Dr. Kip and Dr. Mejia helped one of the VITs who wanted to sing at church, go to church and participate in the choir. It was a traditional African-American Baptist church. And she said, I didn't know it was 3 hours. Welcome to the United States.
Yeah, she's the one who, she knew the husband wasn't.
It was a New Mount Zion that was just here, I think was the church.
Yes, I believe so. It's Ms. Betty Young's church. So the minute we met, she's like, I want to sing in a gospel choir. And I'm like, well, let us find out. And she went last Sunday, and the community, the way they welcomed them was incredible. I mean, they said things like, and you are now part of our family. They made them stand up, introduce themselves. She has this, both of them are super talented. He is a drum player and he ended up playing drums at the service. She ended up singing too. It was just beautiful. And she's like, I'm down. I'm here every Sunday.
I mean, it's been amazing. So the resource page, if we go to the very top, you'll get a chance to see that which new to Topeka. This isn't the only items, but these are things that teachers, current teachers, whether they're international teachers, whether they're teachers from the States, as the human resource team has gone out through the guidance and leadership of Ms. Sharp to meet with all of the new teachers over the course of this first semester. And as they're doing that, which we don't normally go and visit every new teacher, well, they're doing that. So as they do that, these are things that they've shared. They would like to know, like, where is the hospital? And I got sick one weekend and I didn't know really where to go and where's urgent care. And before your insurance starts, how do you get shots if you have children, and just all kinds of things that you might not think of. Where's the laundromat? Because I'm renting a place that doesn't have that. So that list will continue to grow. And then we have our new teacher listserv, and we actually have 7 stops now tomorrow. So between the last time you talked to Ms. Flectali, these are 7 people that are donating. And previously the district had a storage facility and it cost maybe between $300 and $500 or so that storage facility was being maintained, and they needed a larger one. And Ms. Sharp said, we need this bigger storage facility. So her and Dr. Mejia, with their hair pinned up, they're in this storage facility, literally climbing over stuff and getting stuff out. And so we decided to use a facility in Topeka Public Schools, so we control it. We have access to it all the time. We let go of that cost, and that cost is now redirected to the moving expense to be able to pick up things. And while we're picking it up, hey, we'll drop it off at your house. So it is truly a organized, and not everybody's move can be funded in that way. But if we're picking up things, it makes it a lot easier to be able to align it. It's been incredible. So our international teacher support has been, we feel wonderful. I'd be remiss to not mention Louis Toyota, who's joined in that effort and created a program in the last 10 days to give low-cost cars and loans and leases. And so we're looking forward to seeing many more partners across the county and beyond to support teachers, international and U.S. teachers. Are there questions for either Dr. Berry or Dr. Mejia?
I actually have a question. Not sure who between Dr. Berry and Dr. Mejia, maybe the both of you. And also I think maybe some element for you too, Dr. Anderson, as we look at all the efforts that have gone into really what amounts to a whole slate of value added features and benefits that we are offering people as an incentive to come and to work at Topeka Public Schools. I don't know if this is data that's already being tracked in terms of the effectiveness, but it would be good to be able to look and see, have these things made a difference in longevity, in reducing teacher turnover rates, particularly with, those impacted specifically that are coming to us internationally. But like Dr. Mejia said, some of the other services that are provided are to meet the needs of teachers that are already here and not necessarily coming from another country. So I kudos. I think this is a fantastic idea. It sounds like it's already doing some fantastic work, which is phenomenal. I'm just kind of wondering and hoping that there's some data that we can show as time goes forward to show its actual effectiveness. And I'd be surprised if Dr. Kipp hasn't already thought of this.
Well, I want to say that the Filipino community of new teachers or international teachers being the largest in Topeka Public Schools, we do have data of how long they stay. We have teachers. I came in 2004, and in 2006, I remember that first batch of teachers, and most of them are here, and they are here to stay. That's why they want to bring their families. get established here, continue to live their values and their culture here, while also, learning and sharing and benefiting from our culture. So it's very positively symbiotic. But I mean, we have teachers from, 18 years, 16 years. Mrs. De La Cruz, she has been here, I believe, 16. Then we have 13. So it's there's longevity and commitment to stay and continue educating students at Topeka Public Schools. I was not hired as an international person, but I was sponsored here. And this is my 21st year. So we come, we commit, we stay, and we greatly appreciate Topeka Public Schools and that opportunity that is presented and given to us. So on my behalf and theirs, thank you.
You are welcome.
And with that data piece, we have 60 to 100 new students this year. Some of that 60 would be some of our international families, because some have students enrolled in our schools. The family of 5 coming on Saturday has 3 children under the age of 5. So you're talking about, again, longevity over time that's bringing their family. And Dr. Berry and Dr. Mejia, having been school leaders, they're tracking the data from engagement to assessment scores to all of these other pieces. So we look forward to continuing to bring that back. Now, when the majority of the teachers are here and well into their year, we'll think about a great time to come back to the board. Of course, October is the month in which the Filipino community has their celebration. So whether it's October or whether it's later in the year, to allow you to meet as many people as possible, so you can hear their story from them, which is even more valuable than hearing from us.
Absolutely. Okay, Dr. Bonebreak, I know I saw your hand up. Okay, how about that? All right. A broken clock is right twice a day. Mr. Munoz.
Dr. Mejia, as we talk about innovation and building culture, one thing that I know that I've done in the past, it was informally, was we helped to sort of mentor or adopt one new teacher who was here. And I wonder, on our TPS staff resources page, if we can, who might be a contact for somebody who would like to sort of help and walk alongside a teacher? Would that be yourself? Okay.
Me.
Well, we need to add that to the website.
My sense is that there are a lot of families who'd be willing to adopt somebody. We still are in touch with that teacher, even though she's not here anymore. But I think especially in that first year, it makes sense to have somebody to be able to walk along.
Absolutely. And please spread the word. We are always looking for community mentors. My network is not big enough to fulfill that. So I know yours is. So please direct them to me. And
They're
we'll be happy
definitely-
to pair them with a family.
I have no doubt, yeah, that we have people in our community who are willing to welcome that, and that bodes well for our school district, but also for Topeka.
We'll add that to the website, that if you'd like to mentor, contact Dr. Mejia. And then we're asking each school that has a Filipino or any teacher that is international to identify someone at the school. Because what we've learned is they're carpooling together, they're going grocery shopping together, they're informally acting in ways that a community mentor would act. They may not cover all of the components, but a lot. So really asking each school, I mean, it's 50 to 80 people that are staff members in a school, to provide a mentor. That's one way to help Dr. Mejia fill that gap with our own staff.
And that applies to international as well as new teachers at all, right?
Yes, and new teachers are assigned a mentor, but they don't necessarily need to know where is a grocery store and where are those people, they don't need to know all of the kinds of resources, like, well, you took someone to the DMV yesterday, right after he came to orientation. I mean, you don't normally have that for other teachers in that way, that same level of need. With that, Mr. Tatum, as we turn it back over to you, for those that are new to coming to a board meeting, sometimes the audience might have their hand up. And we know it's the board's meeting and there's a public address time, but however you want to address that, so that if that hand doesn't get answered in this main space, certainly any one of these team members will be here throughout the meeting and after to address any questions.
I'm glad you raised that issue, Dr. Anderson. It would be good if team members could field questions from the audience, so that we can stay on track with our agenda and continue to move forward. And there is, for anyone who's interested, there is a process for members of the public to be able to address the board. But that process is typically coordinated through Mrs. Lister. And there is since this is a actual official governmental meeting, there's a process that's prescribed for us to be able to navigate through. So thank you, Dr. Anderson. And Mrs. Boley, I think you had a follow-up question.
I just was wondering if I could make a suggestion. I know that on the website, it's changed to new teachers, but then the next line it says international teachers. So immediately, if I opened that and I were a new teacher, I think I would feel excluded from those resources.
Yes, it was changed to new teachers today.
Yeah, well, the line right underneath it says,
Yeah.
still says international.
Yeah, I think that's a work in progress, that
Okay.
site.
Yeah.
So I anticipate over the course of the next day or two, since the site went up today, it began to be changed today. But so noted, we'll make sure they know that not only the wording, what I'd like to see is an actual website, like its own landing page. And you can click on different links and graphics and, I mean, ideally, but the list is helpful as a starting point. So we'll make sure that that new teachers matches new teachers down below, and we take off the international word. And as you see other changes, or you say, man, this is missing, because we've heard other things that are missing, that people think, what about, where's the link to other community services, mental health services? Let us know. We'll continue to add and encourage teachers to use that.
Thank you so much for what you're doing. I don't know, I'm pretty sure that you guys are just about as proud to be board members of Topeka Public Schools tonight. We are so proud of all the efforts that you are making, and in so many ways, but your work and crawling over furniture to pull things out and making the connections that you're making is just really fundamental to making our district feel like home for all of our teachers. So thank you for those efforts, and sorry you have to do it in the heat.
It's okay. Nobody that I could possibly imagine does what Dr. Anderson does to bring, to make sure these teachers are ready to get started, focus on the kids, focus on their craft, and feel at home. Nobody. And they see it,
so true.
they say it, and they appreciate it. And it's sincere.
And you're part of that team, so thank you all for all
Absolutely.
your efforts.
Well, and here's a story. Thank you for saying that, but it takes the collective and including the board supporting us to provide that support. It's a Jardine story, and I see the reporters in here that wrote this story about this family and it's funny you asked about the McKinney-Vento grant. So this family, this father who's a Jardine parent, who is working there now, and his child is there, and he was once homeless, and then, the district employed him. That's wraparound services. So now he's an employee. So then most recently, they came across this piece of, man, he doesn't have a washer and dryer in his home. So where's the washer and dryer? It's at the school, which is beautiful to be able to say, you don't necessarily need one at your home. You can come to the school, and it's one of the 18 washer and dryers that we have to say, if you're a staff member or parent or both, isn't it special that we can provide wraparound services in a way that shows love to one another? It's been pretty special, and it, I think, has impacted us all on so many levels. That is our international report. I have some brief items to mention about strategic planning, but I'll turn it back over to you, Dave.
Dr. Beeson has a question as well. Go ahead.
It was just a quick comment, but I think that we so often think about our educators supporting our kids as, like the whole child. And this just really strikes me as the first time I've heard of a district supporting the whole human of a teacher. And that's really, really powerful. I have 3 little girls in the district, and at least, well, 2 of them, because one's in kindergarten, 2 of them have had classroom teachers who are these international teachers. And I think because of what the district is doing, and also probably the type of human being who takes this risk and makes this move and wants to do this work, I watched them support
my children as whole children too. And it's just such a cycle. So really incredible to hear about all of this.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. So with that, we are ready to move on to discussion items. Doesn't appear that there's any discussion items on our agenda tonight.
And Mr. Tatum, and I'll go back for just a moment if I could, just quickly mention
Sure.
something about strategic planning.
Mhm.
For all of our members, the strategic planning process, we're going to go to the website, click on where it is. For those that are listening online, if you want to see the strategic plan, you'll see it there. And you can take one click and you can see the pillars of our strategic plan. Those pillars then become committees. If you have, which many of you have shared an interest in a particular committee, those committees often kick off on Staff Development Day in October in terms of what committee you serve on. And so I think, are we clicking to the one pager or are we going to all of the areas? Okay, and it doesn't, wherever you end up stopping at, because you'll see it multiple times, you know, academic achievement, which is student learning, finance. When you look at all of the areas, climate and equity, you've already shared committees that you want to serve on, like the Equity Council. So we will assume that you probably want to be on that strategic planning committee. So at the end of this week, I'll just send that little note. Thank you for moving to that one pager there. Send you a little note to say you've shared an interest in this particular area, either with me in a one-to-one meeting or in a broader meeting. Would you like to serve on this strategic planning committee? And here are the tentative dates they're planning to meet. And generally, again, the PD day is nice because teachers don't have to stay after or come at night or come on the weekend. It's they already have that time. So if you can accommodate those pieces, that's always been a nice piece. It allows for our strategic plan to be ongoing. So we just look at the goals. What have we already done? What are some new goals under that area? Like, for example, all this international piece, that would be new. We need to put it in the strategic plan so it's reflected there. And what else do we want to add to that strategic plan? So thinking about those pieces, and that would fall, just so that you know, under highly effective staff. It's one of the pillars that's listed. And then that moves into the work areas, the work groups. You might remember that the board, you all said, hey, you want more time to just talk to each other. So I shared in past districts, we have a work session, and you all like that. And so you added your work session. So the work session, we often will speak on a topic before you get to the work session. So you go deeper into that area. The items that you sent in to Ms. Lister for the retreat that weren't selected by the majority, and there were all kinds of items submitted, I felt that might be a good template to bring back to you as work session topics for the year. So even though you don't talk about them at the retreat, those become the work session topics, with the exception of next month. The work session for next month, we have several schools that won challenge awards. Those challenge awards are from KSDE. You might remember those schools that met the challenge and exceeded the expectation of what they should be achieving at, given their demographic makeup and other areas. So the KSDE, the commissioners team, will be invited here, the State Board of Education. And that work session would be academic achievement. And we'd like to add that for that next meeting because it takes a while to give out those challenge awards. But outside of that, if it pleases the board, President Tatum, and if there are any questions about that, I can answer those. But if that's okay, we're going to proceed with offering you some suggested work sessions based on the retreat items. And the strategic planning topics, I'll email you to share which ones seem to be areas that are aligned with your interest. And then you just let us know if you want to be on something else. Thank you, President Tatum.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Dr. Anderson on that strategic planning idea? While we're on the topic, before it gets away from me, we're talking about the committees, the general committee work, and more specifically, well, actually, no, we're talking about the strategic planning committees, but I'm thinking about the standing committees that all of us are on in some capacity. Who are the members who are on the technology committee? Okay, just two of you. Okay, I'm adding Mrs. Schmidt to that committee. Just wanted to make sure there weren't already three board members on that committee. So, okay, Dr. Schumacher, Mrs. Boley, and now Mrs. Schmidt. Okay, great. Action items. Looks like action item 22.1 is resolution 25 25-003 to approve and adopt exceeding the revenue neutral rate. So we'll need a motion on that.
I move to approve and adopt exceeding the revenue neutral rate resolution 25-003 by a roll call vote.
Roll vote means you say yes or
Were you going to call on us or just have us go down the line? Mrs. Boley seconds. Okay, I think now we are ready to move on. This is a weird situation. This is just different than how we normally process information in the meeting.
Hey, your vote.
Aye.
Dr. Schumacher,
Yes. Yes.
Mrs. Schmidt,
Yes.
Mr. Munoz,
Yes.
Mrs. Boley,
Yes.
Dr. Bonebrake,
Yes.
Dr. Beeson.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Clearly that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. That takes us to the next item, which is resolution 25-004 to adopt local option budget percentage.
I move to approve resolution 25-004 to adopt local option LOB percentage.
All right, do we have a second for that motion? Dr. Beeson seconds. We are, any discussion on that? Okay, let's go ahead and vote on it.
The vote is open.
See, okay.
All votes are in and that motion carries unanimous.
Great. All right. Thank you all. All right. Believe it or not, we have reached the tail end of the meeting. Oh, is there?
I want to,
Oh,
I want a motion.
okay. So
Nobody gets paid if you don't vote on this.
that's true. I know that the Chiefs have kicked off. So that's that. Not yet. They delayed it. Okay. So that's where my brain is at. Okay. 22.3, approve and adopt the 2024-2025 school year budget.
I move to approve and adopt the 2024-2025 school year budget.
Do we have a second for that motion? Okay, Dr. Bonebrake seconds. Any further discussion on this motion?
Vote is
Oh,
open.
okay, thank you.
All votes are in and the motion carries unanimous.
Thank you, everyone. All right. So yeah, we would have gotten a lot of phone calls about that. So now we are ready for comments from board members so we can get out of here. You guys, I'm probably a little loopy simply because I drove from Garden City today. Made it back just in time to change and to head here for Dr. Schumacher and I's meeting with Dr. Anderson. So I don't have anything. I'm going to go ahead and start with the board member comments. And I don't have anything else to add at this point other than go Chiefs. And I'm going to pass it to Dr. Schumacher today.
Technology committee met for the longest meeting I've ever had. And I'm going to recap it minute by minute. We first talked about strategic. No, it was actually it was a longer meeting, but it felt very productive. And there was a lot of great energy in that meeting and maybe like the most I've had in a long time with technology committee. So, which is a low bar. But we did talk a lot around kind of looking forward. Technology is ever changing. And so that means everything becomes obsolete at some point. And so how do we, as a district, plan and budget, and how does that align with our strategic plan and our goals, and trying to look at it from that lens? When we know that there's components and different parts of technology, which when we think of technology, we think of these awesome touch screen laptops. But there's so much more to technology, even I think than any of us could appreciate. We had some discussion around what we do when technology is broken, inside the classroom, outside the classroom. We had some discussion around Munis and all the effort that continues to go into Tyler Munis. And we talked about a few other things, but I am excited about technology committee and that process moving forward. And I hope Ms. Boley would agree with me too. And then we also had personnel committee just before this meeting. And we talked also about the international teachers, but then, and just how all of our teachers, not just international, but, getting teachers in, there was a need in fax in one of our middle schools. And Dr. Berry, I think potentially had that person hired like within a day of hearing about a need for a fax teacher. So the great work this team is a newer team in HR. Dr. Berry is just part of that. But I'm very excited about the ways that they're leveraging different things to try to recruit but then how do we support that staff? So we're welcoming them, but then providing support so we can retain. And that's all I have, I think.
Mr. Munoz.
I don't believe we've met yet on the policy committee since our last meeting, so I don't have any update there. I did look forward to our first meeting for Equity Council with Dr. Beeson, so that'll be coming up here soon. And other than that, as most all parents busy with getting kids to all their activities, and sports is coming up, Friday football and all that kind of stuff. So looking forward to all that coming up here in the next couple of months.
Right. Mrs. Schmidt. Okay, short and sweet. Mrs. Boley.
Back to the technology committee, I believe you're really wanting to create a strategic plan and really work on putting things in place. So it's something that hasn't really been in place. So we appreciate your new eyes on the committee, and the suggestions that you made are very powerful for our district. So thank you for bringing those new eyes. Also wanted to thank Hope Street and all the parents and staff there for being so flexible in a major water main break. And so we appreciate all of their flexibility. And I wanted to thank our budget committee. Our budget looks so good. They have just worked so hard, and Munis has been a really almost complicating piece to all of this. But they have worked through it. And so thank you they're not even here, but thank you. They've done a lot of hard work on that, and our budget looks really strong. And also I wanted to thank Mr. Robbins. He said he would cheer louder since I'm not home to cheer yet. He said that he would cheer louder until I got there. So what a great start to our school year. And I'm just so proud to be sitting on this board. After our meeting tonight, we are a special district in our county, and I wish other people knew that as well. So thank you, Dr. Anderson, and all of your leadership team, everybody in the district. We are pretty fantastic.
Dr. Beeson.
I am looking forward to my first committee meetings, health insurance and equity committee. Those are both coming up, so I'll have more to report then. I'm excited. So, real quick. So one of my favorite things about being on the board is I just hear so much more about the district and what's going on. And as a parent, I have been so thrilled with all of the services the district offers. I've taught in several districts. I've never experienced anything like this. It's been maybe a week or so. I saw on Facebook, I was following the Highland Park marching band, and they had a photo that included Melinda Floor, the orchestra teacher there. And she was my violin teacher in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade in Emporia. So I got to track her down. Hadn't spoken to her since then. But I was a kid who moved to Emporia in the middle of the year from California and didn't know anyone and had never played an instrument. And it's one of my favorite childhood memories. And she was one of my favorite teachers. So we've got her here and we're in touch now. So anyway, go Chiefs.
Dr. Boomberg.
My committees all meet next week, so that's it. You all got a copy of a joke in the newspaper this past Sunday. It kind of goes along with our cell phone conundrum.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Dr. Boomberg. I think, I haven't read it yet, I think. Okay, so thank you all. At this point, we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move the meeting adjourned.
Do we have a second for that motion? Mrs. Boley seconds. Any further comments? All right, quick vote, hand vote. All in agreement? Okay, we're adjourned.